emboldened by the flame of ambition.
Sword and Shield is my second favorite weapon when it comes to Monster Hunter, and the reasoning behind that is because it provides me with a contrast in playstyle when compared to the gun lance. If you look at the gun lance, you're talking about a slow, lumbering weapon, even though we do have Blast Dash, we have Bullet Barrage, we have Reverse Blast Dash, we have all of these things that do increase our mobility with the weapon, and if you do slot for Evade Extender, you're going to be able to dodge a little bit further in all this, but at the end of the day, when you're actually engaging with the monster, it's not like you can just evade stuff, you know, at a whim whenever you want. A lot of the times you will have to sit there and block it because lingering hitboxes and other mechanics in the game. And the Sword and Shield just provides me with a much more agile playstyle, which is why I wanted to do the Embolden build in the first place. And that is one of the reasons why I enjoy playing Sword and Shield so much, because, you know, I like weapons that come with shields. In the case of the Sword and Shield, you actually get to bash the monster in the face with your shield. So naturally, the Embolden build is not really going to be featuring a whole lot of elemental damage. Because I want to focus on bashing monsters in the shield, bashing monsters in the face with my shield. And speaking about shields, one of the first mistakes that I made with this build, because obviously you got Embolden, this is a skill that we talked about in the previous video. It is going to increase your blocking capabilities. So I was thinking to myself, bro, I'm going to block everything. It's going to be glorious. And then I went and I thought, I don't remember what monster it was, but the initial version of this build was basically rocking, I kid you not, Guard 5 and Embolden. And I was like, yeah, this is going to be the best. And then I got to the monster and I blocked. Again, I don't remember what monster it was. The background footage is not going to be related. I'm going to be fighting like an anomaly Gore Magala. That's 100 and it's either 111 or 112 Gore Magala, in case you guys are curious. Still climbing the anomaly research and all that jazz. But so I'm fighting this monster and he does whatever move he's about to do, and I'm just going to block that. And my character like moved backwards, and I'm like, wait a minute. If I'm rocking Guard 5 and Embolden and there's still attacks that are going to make me reel, sucks. I hate it. And that's one of the reasons why it took me longer to actually make the build, because I was very, you know, I was really expecting to just like stack all of this block and be able to block literally everything without even having to move an inch. Turns out it doesn't really work like that. I think that the monster that I was fighting at the time was a Lucent, and he just like slapped me with his tail or something, and I blocked it, and I got sent reeling, and I was like, well, this sucks, because like that was the whole point of me making the build, was to make something that I could block whatever I wanted without ever reeling, so that I could go into the counter or, you know, do a bunch of other things that I wanted to do. Then I started adapting a build, started changing it around, and interestingly enough, in the next couple of builds that I did, I was not seeing a lot of success. I was fighting like the Pyre Rachna Kadaki that I have, that I used to grind anomaly research, and I wasn't even being able to finish the quest. I was getting my ass killed. And there was two reasons for this. Number one, I was trying to block everything still, despite the fact that I had adapted the build to not have as much block as before, because that doesn't make sense. If there's still going to be attacks that are going to send you reeling, what sense does it make to have all of this block plus Embolden, and you're still going to be sent reeling, right? So, number one, as I was saying, I was still trying to block things way more than I should. Number two, I forgot critical boost. Look, I'm a gun lance main, all right? I'm a gun lance main. I don't always think about critical boost, and curiously enough, the third iteration of the build also didn't have critical boost. And the fourth iteration of the build didn't have critical boost. I'm not proud of myself. This was not a good moment for me, all right? It was weird. It was like, it seemed like every time that I was fighting monsters, I was like, why is it taking me so much longer than it does with the gun lance? There's something wrong. I mean, I know that I'm much more practiced when it comes to the gun lance, but still, I was looking at the times that I was getting as I was defeating monsters, and I was not really happy with those times. And on top of it, I was looking at how hard things were being to me. And fundamentally, one of the things that I very rarely do with Sword and Shield, as a matter of fact, I think I mentioned it in like my guide for Rise and probably in my guide for Monster Hunter World as well. One of the things that I very rarely do with Sword and Shield is block. Usually, I just tend to focus on attacking. Attack, 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 attack. That's what I do. I just go straight for the offense, and I try to dodge everything whenever it comes to defenses on the build. And then eventually, as I was reworking the build, I was like, dude, I kind of just want to play regular Sword and Shield instead of like forcing all of these blocks in. And then I realized, Embolden doesn't just increase your blocking capabilities, it also increases your roll invincibility windows. And then I was like, bling! I can just play Sword and Shield like I always play without having to worry too much about making use of block, because this ability works for both block and dodging. And at that point, everything just kind of clicked, and I started just like butchering monsters left, right, and center. Even though I'm very much out of practice with Sword and Shield, so there's probably a lot of stuff in the run that you're watching that you're going to be able to criticize. But at the same time, it was brutally satisfying. At some points, I almost felt like I was straight up bullying this Gore Magala, which felt really good. And at that point, I knew, okay, I think that now the build is ready for public scrutiny so that people can criticize all of the mistakes that I've made. Now, unlike what I've done with builds before, I'm not going to be bothering to show you guys the decorations, because that's always a hassle, both in the editing and at the end of the day. Decorations don't really mean much anymore with curious armor crafting, because I might get a skill that I put into a gem slot that you might get through curious armor crafting. So the most important thing is, what are the pieces, what are the skills, and then I will tell you what are the most important skills, what are the most important pieces, and all of that jazz as we move forward. So for the weapon, I chose the Cactus Gidahain. There's not really a whole lot of reasoning behind this choice. I was just like, this looks good, it's got good raw, it's got a little bit of fire damage, a little bit of affinity. You can pick pretty much whatever you want. There's not like a hard weapon that you need to choose for this build. It does have a tier 4 slot, so that is very helpful in doing stuff with the build and all that. But at the end of the day, it's not really a big deal. You can choose whatever you want, and it really is completely up to you if this is the weapon that you want to use or if you want to use another one. In terms of the armor, we have the Arc Helm Onmyo Kariginu, which is from Violet Mizutsune. All of the Onmyo pieces are Onmyo Teku, Onmyo Teobi, and Onmyo Sashiko. So we actually have 4 pieces of Mizu. This also increases your resistances. Not that it matters too much. I actually don't even know what my resistances are. I haven't really checked. It's just like the 3 of the pieces obviously come with the Embolden skill, and the final piece, which is the legs, is just really, really good. Comes in with 2 weakness exploit, 2 guard, 2 offensive guard. What's it called? Yeah, offensive guard, and still has a tier 4 slot, right? And on top of it, I augmented it has another tier 1. It's really good. But yeah, those are the pieces that we're using in terms of a charm. I have my Part Breaker, Wirebug, Whisperer charm. These 2 skills I feel like are actually not that important to the build. It's just I like having Part Breaker. I've told you guys this repeatedly, so I keep it on the build. And, Wirebug Whisper is just kind of like a bonus, but these are 2 skills that you actually can very much live without. As a matter of fact, the whole build, I feel like, is incredibly flexible in terms of the skills that you can have, because the fundamental part of the build is Embolden and Agitator, and the rest is kind of like, hey, do whatever the hell you want. And this is what I did in my case, but you guys can do something completely different. You can go way more meta with it if that's what you want, but I just personally find it really fun to play around with all of the different procs and stuff that you can get, and that's why I picked the skills that I'm going to be showing you here. So we have Agitator 5, Resuscitate level 3. Now there's a couple of things that are going to trigger Resuscitate in this build. Namely, we also have, what's it called? Hellfire Cloak. So Hellfire Cloak's going to trigger that as well. We also have Bloodlust from the Arc Helm, so that's going to trigger that as well. So these are already like 2 things, and then potentially if you end up getting poisoned or anything like that, that's going to trigger Resuscitate as well. So Resuscitate is going to have a very reliable uptime while you are playing this build. So you got Agitator, Resuscitate, Critical Boost, which I've forgotten quite a few times. Weakness Exploit level 3. We got Stamina Surge level 3 that comes as a bonus from the Onmyo thing. So if you're doing curious armor crafting and you lose Stamina Surge, not really a big deal. We also have Offensive Guard level 3. This is, again, it's not really mandatory, and if you don't like Offensive Guard, you can take a different set of feat, and you can get some other skill that you want. I went with Offensive Guard because I want to practice some of these blocks a little bit better, and because I believe Offensive Guard also triggers when you do the counter for Metsu Shoryugeki. So that is very useful. We have 3 stun resistance because, yeah, I get hit a lot with longsword. I get hit a lot with sword and shield. As it turns out, I probably will also get hit a lot with longsword, but, you know, I get hit a lot with sword and shield because I'm very much out of practice. Stun resistance helps surviving. We have level 3 part breaker as well. Then we have level 3 flinch free. You don't need that. I think that comes in the legs as well. We have level 3 Wirebug Whisper from the Charm. Level 3 Hellfire Cloak. You don't need this. You might be wondering, why are you using level 3 Hellfire Cloak? I kind of got used to it from using the Gun Lance, and I just really like having it because, for starters, it's 1 guaranteed drop early in the fight. But that's not even the biggest thing. The biggest thing is I really like using the skill where you rush forward with your shield and you shield bash the monster. So every time I use that skill and the monster's enraged, which, as it turns out, is quite often because we're using Embolden, it's going to be 100 more damage that you can potentially do, assuming that you do this close enough to the monster. If the monster runs into it, whatever, it's 100 more damage every now and then, which is pretty good in my opinion. And, you know, considering all of the other meta skills that I already have, it's whatever. We're going for level 3 Coalescence. You don't need level 3. You only need level 1. I think the helmet comes with level 2. But you don't really need level 3. But I was like, I want to get Coalescence. So boom. Level 3 Defiance. This is very good because in during this particular encounter, at one point the monster's roaring and I'm just like sharpening. So it's kind of useful. And obviously he's going to be enraged often, so Defiance again comes into play often. Level 3 Embolden, naturally, even though I kind of want to do a build. It's just I need a lot of materials before I can get to that. But I kind of want to do a build with just 1 Embolden and try that out and see how that feels. Although that build, I'm going to have evade window to compensate for it. I think it'll be interesting because I was going to do like Embolden, evade window, adrenaline rush. It was going to be much more about dodging, even more so than this one. But yeah, that one's going to require a significant amount of farming, and it's going to take me even longer than it took to make this video, so you'll have to wait a little bit longer for that one. Then we have Fire Attack level 1, Guard Up. Guard Up is just in case you need to guard something. I think I have this through Curious Crafting on one of the pieces. 1 point of Slugger. This I do think is important. You don't need to have 3 points, but 1 point of Slugger is pretty good. It increases your knockout potential a lot more. And because I'm basically spamming shield bashes, very useful. 1 point of Stamina Thief, optional. And then most of the other stuff is optional with the exception of Bloodlust. Adrenaline Rush is also good, but I'm not really shooting for it. I just happen to have gotten it. Spearbird's Call, I don't know where I'm getting this. I think one of the armor pieces got it through Curious Crafting. Then we have 1 point in Burst. This is the new chain crit, in case you guys forgot about it. 1 point there. It just adds a little bit more damage to your stuff. You can even add more if you want to. But yeah, that's pretty much all of the skills in the armor set. Showing you guys the armor set as well. And personally, I think the build's a lot of fun. It really got me back into Sword and Shield. If you usually don't tend to play Sword and Shield, I would heavily recommend it. I kind of feel like it's a weapon that traditionally is underutilized because everybody kind of sees it as the vanilla weapon. But it's just so much fun. Like, I guarantee the moment that you land 1 Metsu Shoryugeki, it's like crack cocaine, okay? You're just going to be addicted to it. You're going to be like, whoa, that felt so good. Even though a lot of the monsters now with their movesets, they end up avoiding the subsequent hits of Metsu Shoryugeki. But naturally, Sword and Shield is never going to get as much love as Longsword, so it's not like we can go crying to Capcom, being like, oh, my Metsu Shoryugeki isn't landing all the time, and then they make it land from across the map. You know, like they did for the Helmbreaker. Anyway... I'm just joking. Longsword mains, don't be mad. I have to keep like making fun of you guys. That's just my thing. I'm sorry. But you know, anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I am taking things easy when it comes to Monster Hunter, mostly because I really do want to avoid burning out, and I am beginning to feel it just a little bit because anomaly research grinding, I've not been very lucky with the monsters that it sends me. So, Pyre Raknakadaki, which is the one that I've brought all the way up from level 100, and I am now taking into level 112, I believe, is still the best monster that I have to raise my anomaly currently. And I just really wish, game, please give me literally any other quest with good modifiers so that I can go hunt another monster, because I'm so tired of beating on this poor Pyrarachnikodaki. It's almost like every time I zone in there, the Pyrarachnikodaki just waiting in terror, going like, okay, here we go again. It's like, you know, she's just sitting there waiting in terror for me to brutalize her with my gun lance, and it's pretty gnarly. It makes me a little bit sad. So please, game, for the love of God, give me a different monster to fight with negative modifiers on the quest. Because if there's no negative modifiers, then the rate at which you level up is painfully slow. But anyways, that was just also a little bit of an update. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be focusing a lot on Rurikhan Unleashed, I feel like, because there's a lot of stuff happening in the MMO world right now. But I also will be making videos on God of War Ragnarok, just not a full playthrough like you got. Hopefully you guys saw the other video. And another thing, I would really like to thank everyone for your understanding. I should have led with this in the video. I'm sorry. But it's like I really wanted to appreciate everyone's outstanding support and when I posted the other video, and your understanding. I really appreciate it. Like I've always said, I don't take any of this for granted. So thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for watching. If you guys enjoyed it, as per usual, like button, subscribe, bell notification, all that jazz. You guys know how this works by now. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong. Stay safe. Peace out.